The finale of To Be Hero X was nothing short of epic. For fans who've been waiting to see X truly unleashed, this was a payoff like no other. Almost the entire runtime focused on him, showcasing his overwhelming powers and his unstoppable confidence. But even with how satisfying it was to watch, the episode left us with more questions than answers. How exactly did X get his powers? Who is the real villain of the series? Who will X face next? And what did he mean when he said he was defying fate? On top of that, did X just reveal his identity? Today, we're going to break down the ending of To Be Hero X in detail, clear up the confusing parts, and explain what it all means for the story going forward. So, let's begin. The episode begins with the Commission, terrified of X's growing power, authorizing the activation of every single ranked hero to hunt him down. This wasn't just a precaution, it was an all-out declaration of war. One by one, X faces off against the top-ranked heroes. But instead of being overwhelmed, he dismantles them with terrifying ease. Using his reality-bending abilities, X manipulates space and time itself, trapping enemies in twisted, game-like dimensions, teleporting at will and instantly shutting down even the highest-ranking opponents. The Commission tries to counter him through every trick in the book. They manipulate trust values, deploy specialized traps, and attempt contingency plans, but nothing works. X doesn't just dodge these measures, he destroys them. In the middle of the chaos, X delivers a powerful monologue. He calls out the corruption of the so-called superhero companies, agencies, and the Hero Affairs Commission. In the finale, X explicitly declares that he will tear it all down and go after the root cause, the system, the agencies, and even fate itself. For the first time, X declares openly that his true mission is not simply to fight other heroes or villains, but to go after the very source of fate itself, the hidden force that has been controlling everyone, including him. Meanwhile, we get a few important character beats. Nice, who was presumably dead all this time, suddenly comes back with visible cracks in his face, and also in the top 10 ranking dismantling E-Soul. How is that even possible? I'll get to him later. Then comes a quieter but critical scene, where X tells that the coin he once gave Cayenne, the moment he thought marked his awakening, actually wasn't the start of his hero journey. He admits that his story began because of Rock's earlier actions, not because of that moment. And in the same breath, X implies that his own origins as a hero are separate from what the Commission planned or expected. Visually, the episode turns into a spectacle. Rapid 2D and 3D transitions heighten both the battle intensity and the emotional weight of X's words. By the climax, we see all the top 10 heroes lined up for battle, and X makes his most dramatic declaration yet. He will wage war against the fate system itself. Not just the Commission, not just other heroes, but the very structure of reality that governs their world. And then, just before the credits, we get a teaser of a new opening sequence, flashing glimpses of upcoming battles, new characters, and an existential struggle that promises to define the next season. So, after such a chaotic and heavy finale, it's natural that fans are left with questions. How did X really get his powers? How is Nice alive? What did he truly mean by defying fate? Who exactly is the main villain here? The Commission, Rock, or something else entirely? Who will X be fighting next season? And when he said time to clock out, did he just reveal his civilian identity? These are the big mysteries left hanging after the finale, and they're what we're going to dive into next. How is Nice alive? When Nice first reappeared, it shocked everyone. After all, we were led to believe he was gone for good. His suicide in the very first episode seemed final, but now he's back. How? The show doesn't give us a clear explanation, but there's a strong theory circulating among fans. The idea is that Nice's current form is no longer purely human. Instead, his body may now be composed of fear itself. This would explain his grotesque, monstrous transformation, his body literally mutating as the vessel he once had shatters under the influence of fear. There are a couple of possible scenarios that fit this theory. Maybe Nice somehow survived his fall and was later injected with fear to save his life. Or maybe he was already infected by fear during the events of Episode 1, and when he threw himself into the abyss, that infection fully took over. Either way, his return is less about being physically alive, and more about being reanimated or reshaped by fear itself, and that makes his presence going forward far more disturbing. He's no longer just a tragic character, but something much darker. How did X get his powers? This is the question on everyone's mind, and the finale gave us just a sliver of new information. When X gave Lucky Cyan her very first coin, he stated that moment as the beginning of his journey as a superhero. This tells us one thing clearly. Before that, he was just a normal person. Whatever turned him into the godlike being, we see now happened after that coin was given. Now, I've already done a deep dive theory video on the origins of X's powers. So if you want the full details, definitely check that out. There are 2 theories from that video that ties perfectly into this. Who is the main villain? At this point, the clearest answer is that the corrupt superhero agencies, the Commission and the institutions behind the Fate system are the main villains. They're the ones X has declared war against, and that will likely be his direct opposition in the next season. But the episode also singles out Rock. His name isn't just mentioned casually, it's emphasized by X. This is where X's chilling line comes in. The Commission is so worried about me being the next Zero, they don't realize the first Zero never perished. This could mean 2 things. On one hand, it suggests that Rock has been carrying Zero's will, trying to create his own Zero through his experiments. Rock, as a kid, idolized Zero, and never let go of that obsession. He refused to move on and made it his life's mission to recreate Zero. Years later, Rock grows up and establishes FOMO, giving him the perfect system to create his new Zero. From there, his manipulations ripple outward. He turns E-Soul into his puppet. He positions Dragon Boy as a candidate for Zero. He trains Ghostblade into a killer. Ghostblade kills Sheng, leading to Big Johnny attacking Vortex. Vortex is injured, causing the plane crash that sets off Lucky Cyan's story. And through all this, X realizes his own beginnings are also tied to Rock. That's why Rock is not just another villain, he's the architect of everything. On the other, it hints that Zero might literally still exist. Is Zero still alive? The Zac Theory. Now here's where things get wild. Some fans believe X's words about Zero never perishing weren't metaphorical at all. They think Zero is literally alive. As Zac. Let's break this down. When you compare Zac and Zero side by side, the similarities are hard to ignore. The same large anime-style eyes, similar jawlines, and Zac's strangely unaged appearance. Despite the passage of 22 years, he's constantly described as young, when realistically he should be in his 40s by now. This also solves a major narrative question. Why is Zac in the story at all? Every other CEO has played a big role in the plot, each being cartoonishly evil or manipulative. But Zac? He's barely done anything. For a show as tightly written as To Be Hero X, that feels deliberate. If Zac is actually Zero, suddenly his lack of action makes sense. He's been quietly observing, letting the pieces fall into place, possibly working alongside Rock. There's also the wording X uses. They never discovered that Zero never perished. If this was meant to be metaphorical, he could have said, Zero never truly died. But the word discovered feels more literal, as if Zero's body, or Zero himself, was hidden all along. And remember, Zac and Rock have been shown together multiple times, more than any other CEOs. Their connection was never explained. But if Zac is Zero, that would tie everything together. Now maybe Rock doesn't even know Zac's true identity. Or maybe Zac isn't literally Zero, but has some deeper connection to him. Either way, the hints are too strong to ignore. What did X mean by defying fate? And did he reveal his identity? As we touched on earlier, when X says he's defying fate, he's specifically saying he's defying Rock's orchestrations. Rock has set up the world like a line of dominoes, forcing everyone into roles. To defy fate is to break free of that chain reaction. And then comes the line that blew up social media. Time to clock out. This isn't just a cool one-liner. Symbolically, it means X is officially retiring his civilian identity. He's no longer going to live half as a normal person, half as a hero. From this point forward, he's embracing his X persona fully. His life is now entirely dedicated to his mission against the Fate system. So yes, in a way, he did reveal his identity. Maybe not to the world at large, but to us as viewers, he showed he's done hiding. And that wraps up the ending of To Be Hero X. The final episode was overwhelming in every sense, visually, emotionally, and narratively. It tied together years of build-up, while setting the stage for what could be an even more explosive second season. What do you think is coming next? Do you believe Zac is really Zero? And how do you think Rock's story will end? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to check out my other video, The 6 Best Theories About Hero X.